so many incredible things about the story of Christmas. Just mind-blowing, unimaginable things. And we've already sung about some of those and heard some of them read. Think about just how crazy it was to see choirs of angels in the sky. Like, you guys sound amazing, and I still can't imagine what angels' choirs would sound like, but it was incredible. It'd blow your mind, right? Or a virgin birth. That just doesn't make sense. Guiding stars, so many aspects of what we celebrate are unbelievable, but the thing that I find the most incredible, hard to fathom, can't wrap my mind around, is this. After a journey of 70 miles, 4 days, with a very pregnant wife, on their way to their hometown, as soon as they get through the city limits to the place where they should have been welcomed, where family members would have opened their home and allowed them hospitality to come in, we read these words in Luke 2. That she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. I find it incredibly hard to believe that the one who actually made the world, we believe that Jesus Christ, God incarnate, who shaped and formed and spoke the world into existence, came to the place that he had made and there was no space for him whatsoever. Isn't that unbelievable? Can you imagine in our time if that were to happen? Like if an architect or a builder, if Frank Lloyd Wright showed up to Falling Waters and they said, "Sorry, sir, there's no space for you here, turn around." Or if Frank Gehry and the Guggenheim and Bilbao showed up, "No, sorry, no room here." It's an incredible thing, and it's ironic that our God is so humble that he would allow it to happen. Bob Goff one time said, "I imagine if later in life the innkeeper thought about it, he wished he'd made more room for Jesus than he thought he had." And I don't want that to be your and my story tonight. See, it's possible, because he is so humble, to miss exactly who he is and exactly what he's come to do, to not make space for him. But we've been making space for all kinds of things the last few weeks, right? Some of you have folks that came to visit you in town. You had to make space in your house this week, right? So you had to move things around. There are people who have a spot to sleep because you made room. We had to make room for the Christmas trees and the garland on the mantle, all those kinds of things. What about all the presents that you asked for? Where are those going to go? The stuff that's on your wish list? The things that are on your real list, of presents? If you get that trip that you've been wanting, you got to make space in your already crowded schedule. Or a brand new car, if you get that, you got to make space in your garage, because who puts a car in a garage anymore, right? Or the giant present that you've never seen one this big coming down the middle of the aisle. You got to make space. Thank you guys for making room. As it came in, I was thinking about this idea that we have stuff that's on our list, like our real list, but that's not what gets submitted at Christmas. Because what we submit at Christmas is what's on our realistic list. The stuff that we believe we'll actually get, And those kind of things require room. So I thought maybe we'd think about this, because everything on your realistic list actually points to something that you really want. Like, for instance, what if maybe this is on your list? Some of you, Jordans, right? Air Jordan, this may be on your list. You guys are like, this is the greatest church. Church has gotten somebody. He's going to throw them into the crowd and give them away. I'm not. I'm really not. But you maybe have this on your list, but you don't necessarily want shoes. You want the experience of being accepted when you walk these shoes into your lunchroom or your class, right? You want people to say, "Come sit with me. Yeah, you're cool." That's what we want. Or what about this? Some of you have on your list like a gift card to your favorite restaurant. I'm not throwing this out either, don't worry. But what you want is not food. What you want is the experience of being with the people that you love most, the community of that, right? What about this? My dad always says, "I have everything that I need, but if you guys would just send me like Shutterfly makes photo books," because he's not close and he wants to experience our family, even though he's not here. Maybe some of you, this will get you. I was thinking about this. Let me unwrap that thing a little bit. Oh, yeah, a driver. But you don't want another golf club. What you want is the confidence that when you step up on the first tee, you are going to crush your best friends that you play with, right? You want confidence. You want to experience that. Maybe for some of you, it's this. Like, you got on your list, one of the, and you got to make a lot of room for some of these things, like tons of space. This sweater is, her name's Churro, by the way. This sweater is actually for a lizard because they don't make one small enough for her. But you know what? You don't want a dog. You want unconditional love. You want somebody that sees you exactly like you are, with all the warts and the bad and the difficulties, with all of your rough spots, and still loves you no matter what, don't you? Yeah? That's what you want. Here you go. Thank you for helping me. Thanks, guys. That's what's on our real list. But we have gifts that we got to make space for that are realistic. Here's my question. If you could get what's on your real list, what would it be? Would you have space for it? Because you know what I think you really want? You want the same things that I want. You want acceptance and peace in a world that seems like it has anything but. You want hope in a world that feels dark and despair. You want love, the kind of love that doesn't change when you do. When your looks change or your success level changes or whatever. You want someone that loves you like, we want the experience of Advent, of all the things that we've been celebrating the last few weeks, but we've got to make space for it. So what has to get moved out of the way in your life? Let's think about that for a second. Some of the things might be distraction, right? To make space for this Jesus come to earth this way to bring all of these gifts to us. We just get distracted with stuff. We get bitter or disappointed. There's worry and anger that can fill up this space. And one of the things that's the most space-taking is just our busyness. Just our calendar, our schedules, just being so busy. And when we get busy, it makes us do some really weird things. Like I was thinking about Grandma, the time came whenever it was time to stop buying gifts for all the kids and the grandkids. Like it's just too much, and you're too busy. And so you got to start sending a card with a check in it, right? And like that first year that it happened where she put all the cards in the mail, and then like 3 days later, she realizes all the checks are still sitting on her desk, but the cards are out. And I know, right? But imagine being the grandkid that opens it up and it says, buy your own presents with nothing in there. She is so mean. Busyness makes us miss a lot of stuff. And you might be so busy right now that you miss what's really happening in this moment, what we celebrate. That Christ wants to come and he needs you to make room. In fact, I want to share with you this verse. It's not super Christmassy. It's not found in the nativity story, but I think it captures the spirit of Christmas so well. It's exactly what you and I need to hear. It's in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 17 through 19, and the writer, Paul, is trying to describe what happens when we make space. And he says this, then Christ will make his home in your heart as you trust him. Your roots will grow down to God's love, and they'll keep you strong. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. And may you experience the love of Christ, though it's too great to understand fully. One of the things I love about this is if you're around church a lot, if you're a believer, Jesus follower, or you come to church a whole bunch, you hear phrases like this, and you kind of get immune to them, but it's really sort of weird. So for those of you who, church isn't your normal thing, let's just be honest for a second. Christ making his home in your heart, that just sounds strange, doesn't it? Like, what does that even mean? And what it means, what the writer is trying to get at, is that when we create room for him, when he comes, he doesn't just bring his presence. He comes to us and he fills us with everything that we need, all the stuff that you're looking for, the things on your real list. That acceptance that you keep seeking for in everything else but him. He says, I'm here to give it to you. The love that that maybe you felt like you've missed because you got betrayed or because you haven't found the right person yet or because you did and then you messed it up and you feel like there's no going back, Christ comes and he offers this as he moves into our life, the peace, the joy that can't be shaken. That's what it means. Because when he takes up residence, he brings everything with him except he doesn't like roommates. He doesn't want to share. And I think this is a message that you and I need to hear, is how are we going to make this much space? I love how honest the writing is here too. Paul says, I want you to experience his love, not just know about it with your brain, but I want you to experience it even though you can't understand it fully. Isn't that great? You're not going to be able to get this completely. You have no idea how much he loves you. But it doesn't matter. I want you to try to experience it. And he says the way that we do it is as we trust him. So our ability to experience his love is not predicated on how much of it we get, we grasp, we know. What he says is, the question is not, do you understand it? The question is, can you trust him? And you know, it's funny, we do this all the time. We trust things we don't understand constantly. The other night, I got to go to a UC Irvine basketball game, and friend Andy picked me up. And so we're heading off to watch the game and cheer for the Anteaters. The Anteaters, that is just so interesting to me as a mascot. But we're going to the game, and we open up the Waze app, and it says, I know we're supposed to go down Irvine Avenue and make a right after about 4 or 5 miles, but it says take a left on 15th and hit the freeway and then come around, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know how it knows that there was a wreck and a slowdown and something else that happened along the way. I didn't have to understand how it does that. I just have to trust it. You do the same thing. We don't understand, many of us, how electricity works or Wi-Fi or internal combustion engines, but you flip the switch and you log on and you press the accelerator. You trust things that you don't understand. There's this thing right now in artificial intelligence, OpenAI. It's called ChatGPT. Some of you heard about it. It's a writing app, artificial intelligence to write for you. It could write your end of year Christmas letter. This thing could write your shareholders letter at the end of the year. It could write a sermon. It didn't, but it could. Because I don't trust it yet. But you don't have to understand something to trust it fully. And you know what else? There are a lot of things that I can't fully comprehend, and I don't know you maybe, but I don't think you can get this either. I can't understand how the eternal God of the universe squeezed himself down into a 33-year earthly existence. That doesn't make sense. More than that, I don't understand how Jesus, who eternally existed, could look into the future and know what was ahead of him and choose to do that out of love. Because you guys get this, right? That's what Christmas is. It's a rescue mission of love. This is why they make so many movies about military rescues that come out at Christmas time, right? Tom Hanks is in all of them. But they make a lot of these things because we know the real reason for Christmas, it's a rescue operation. And I don't know how Jesus could look into the future and know that when he chose to become not just human, like the most frail and vulnerable form of human, an embryo, that as a toddler, he would be forced to run for his life as a refugee, and he would be poor, and he would experience rejection. And the hands that we're told created the world, made the Milky Way and mountains, those hands would get blisters working with rocks and wood that he had dreamed up. How that God could come in this human form, and his back would be bowed over in weariness from hard labor, how his eyes would get tired. This is the God who made everything. I don't understand this. And I really don't get how those hands that God blisters, he would know they would one day carry the eternal scars of crucifixion. For you. For me, I know me. I wouldn't do that for me. How did he do this? Why? I don't understand. How the eyes that closed with sleep would one day sting with the tears of rejection and pain. How that breath that he would lose when he would hear about his best friend dying would one day expire on a cross. Like, love makes humans do some pretty amazing things, doesn't it? But he's got us all beat. God chose to become one of us so that he could die for us. And he says, now will you make room for me to bring my risen presence and life and power and peace into your life? Could you make room? That's what's offered. That's the invitation of Christmas. Paul says, may you experience that even if you don't understand it. So here's how you make a little room. And you're smart people, so I'm not going to insult you by trying to tell you exactly what to do. This isn't 3 steps or 3 hacks to that, but you'll get it as we go. Maybe for you, what you need to do to make room is to trust him just a little more with all of your life. All the things that make you worried or angry right now, that have you stressed out, maybe you pause, and this year before the calendar turns over, you decide, Jesus, I'm going to let you have your way in this. With your finances, with your future, with your career, with your kids, with your singleness, with the delay and the answer to the prayer you've been praying for. Maybe in each of those you would just say, I'm going to trust you, God, in this. Because when we make room like that, it adds to the square footage that he takes up in your life. And when he comes in, unlike grandma, he doesn't say, buy your own stuff. He brings it with him. And he fills you with exactly what's on your real list. Could you do that? And maybe making room for you is like, hey, just next year, you made it tonight, like now you know you can do it. Maybe next year it's just come back to church. Come try a faith community, whether it's this one or one close to your life and where you live. It doesn't matter to me. But maybe you could begin to engage the community of faith and find strength and purpose and Christ in that. Maybe that's how you need to make room. Or maybe it's even simpler. Maybe it's just tonight when you go home to do whatever it is the tradition in your house calls for. You can still watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's fine. But maybe you make a little space and you read the real story of Christmas and you let your heart and your mind be overwhelmed again with the awe and wonder that we're told Mary treasured and pondered in her heart. Maybe you make room for the whole story. Because here's the thing, this story started in a little backwater part of the Roman Empire that didn't make any sense, a tiny town called Bethlehem, and it started with one baby in a moment, but it didn't stay there. See, the real story led him to go all the way on his rescue mission for you. And I think if you'll make room for that, you might find that this really is a very, very Merry Christmas.